All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolute earthquake that was State of Origin Game 1, and we're going to see how the aftershocks from that match are tearing through NRL club selections, refereeing protocols, and even massive broadcast media rights. Because, when a game is played with this much sheer intensity, the consequences don't just stay neatly on the field. They ripple out into literally every corner of the sport.
We're going to track that ripple effect across 5 major talking points today. The origin, Game 1 fallout, the great fullback dilemma, Ashley Klein under fire, the toll of backing up, and finally, creators versus broadcasters. Section 1, the origin Game 1 fallout, and chasing Queensland's ferocity. So the crucial takeaway here is that New South Wales was completely blindsided by Queensland's ferocity right out of the gate. It forced a massive rethink in how the Blues construct their forward pack. It's really all about matching aggression with strategic biomechanics. You've got Lee Martin taking that right edge, bringing this unfiltered aggression, the dog they desperately need to set the tone early. Then on the left, you have Angus Crichton using his super unorthodox style, literally driving with double elbows to target and isolate playmakers like Sam Walker. Add in Hudson Young off the bench and you get that high-impact footwork and middle relief. But amidst all those moving pieces, there's a guy called Payne Haas. Even in a badly beaten side, Haas remains an absolute anomaly. He's carrying the physical burden of the entire middle field basically by himself. We're talking about a front rower playing massive minutes, pushing towards 300 run meters, and still making line breaks late in the game. It's just an unstoppable engine that Queensland knows they can't actually control. They can only hope to weather the storm.
Section 2, the great fullback dilemma, Teddy versus Edwards.
Now, that physical fallout bleeds right into what is arguably the most agonizing coaching chess match in the country right now. James Tedesco versus Dylan Edwards. On one hand, you have Teddy. He is literally on the Mount Rushmore of clutch origin moments. But mechanically, he demands a super high touch volume and constantly roams the middle of the field, which directly clashes with Nathan Cleary, who needs that exact middle space to work his playmaking magic. On the other hand, you've got Dylan Edwards, safe as a bank. He perfectly mirrors the Penrith system by sitting quietly on the right edge and staying out of Cleary's way. So the dilemma is simple. Do you go with the systemic perfection of Edwards, or do you bank on the proven off-the-cuff origin magic of Tedesco? Section 3, Ashley Klein, under fire, the on-field power play. Looking at the fallout of Game 1, love him or absolutely loathe him, commentators are making a really fair point. Ashley Klein's ability to tune out unprecedented levels of hate requires some immense psychological armor. We're talking media petitions demanding his removal, endless social media outrage, just pressure from every conceivable angle. Yet Klein remains completely unbiased. He doesn't crumble under the pressure of the moment or the staggering weight of a stadium's expectations. But let's talk about why this specific moment was so groundbreaking. See, since the bunker was introduced back in February 2016, a huge chunk of decision-making power shifted off the field to a multi-screen review center. So the controversy here isn't just about whether a tackle deserved a sin ban or a street send-off. It's about the incredibly rare precedent of an on-field referee actively flexing his authority to override the bunker's advice, taking absolute, total control of the game's biggest stage. And when you actually break down the biomechanics of that send-off, like the NRL physio highlighted, it paints a really fascinating picture. Pre-existing AC joint injuries from 2023 basically forced the player into this horrific left shoulder technique, even though a traditional right shoulder tackle was geographically what was needed. This unnatural tuck created a high-impact driving motion, resulting in direct, forceful head contact. When you look at those metrics, the intent, the force, the driving motion, it honestly left Ashley Klein mathematically no choice but to rule it a send-off. Section 4, the toll of backing up, the player welfare paradox.
48 hours. Let that sink in. That is the staggering, dangerously short window players have between surviving the fastest, hardest, most violent game of their lives on a Wednesday and lacing up for a Friday night club fixture. And here is the heartbreaking reality of that ridiculously short timeline. Sharks hooker Brayley broke his arm playing a club game just days after his Origin appearance. Players at this level are just too proud and way too competitive to bench themselves, right? They consider backing up for their clubs a massive badge of honor. But that exact mindset is resulting in catastrophic, fatigue-driven injuries, simply because their bodies haven't had the time to recover from Wednesday night's trauma. It reveals a massive, glaring paradox at the heart of the sport right now. On one hand, the NRL is taking these really strong stances on player welfare. They're actively limiting contact during midweek training to protect players from CTE and wear and tear. But on the exact same hand, they're sanctioning players to engage in the sport's most violent collisions on a Wednesday and then letting them step right back onto the field 48 hours later on a Friday. It makes absolutely zero sense. So how do we actually fix this? The sources generally agree that the choice has to be taken entirely out of the player's hands. We could look at a mandatory 96-hour rest, which essentially bans Origin players from Friday games. Maybe we implement minute limits, where anyone playing more than a half of Origin has to sit out. Or, honestly, the game might just need a massive structural overhaul, like a standalone 6-week representative window that just hits pause on the NRL completely to protect its million-dollar assets. Section 5. Creators versus NRL broadcasters, the digital frontier. Taking us completely off the field now, the media landscape is just shifting so rapidly. You've got independent creators like Hectic Fred building massive, hyper-engaged audiences just by streaming their raw, authentic reactions to games. But traditional broadcasters are throwing up these strict copyright blocks, and because Australia lacks the broad fair use protections you see in the US, these creators are legally boxed out. The current broadcast rights are quite literally choking out the exact independent voices who are desperately trying to market the game to a younger, digital-first audience. But what if there was a compromise? Instead of striking these guys down with corporate lawyers, the smartest move for the NRL's upcoming broadcast deal might be integration. Imagine a red button feature on platforms like Kayo that lets fans legally stream these independent creator reactions during the live broadcast. It would effectively turn these influencers into highly entertaining alternative commentary tracks, partnering with the new media instead of fighting a losing battle against it. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Circling back to the immense power held by our officials, before you stand up and applaud a referee for throwing out the rulebook and overriding the bunker to benefit your team today, ask yourself, if it's your team in a grand final, are you going to feel the exact same way when that unprecedented power is used against you in October? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the game.